On a gorgeous Sunday afternoon in Brookhaven, it is Oglethorpe soccer. It is the SAA championship, and you're getting the pre and the post here on the SDH network alongside Madison Cruz. John Nelson here. You've been here all weekend, so you've gotten to see what's been going on.
I have. It's been a very cool couple of semifinal matchups here with Rhodes and Center, and then you have Oglethorpe versus Swanee yesterday. I mean, it was just a back and forth battle for both of these sides. And I mean, coming out on top, late goals for both sides as well. For Rhodes, I believe it came down in the, let me check my notes here.
Check your notes.
And check the notes in the 88th minute for Rhodes versus Center. I mean, what a beautiful goal it was. It was right outside the top of the 18 and then went right in. And then same thing for Oglethorpe. He had 2 late goals. Ben Alrum, the offensive player of the year, at the 65th minute, long range shot right into the little itty bitty little corner right over there. I mean, I saw it.
That's the official soccer term, right?
Official soccer term.
Little itty bitty corner.
Little itty bitty corner right there on that side. But I mean, it was a beautiful goal all around. And I mean, and then he had and you have Christian Medina at the 89th minute as well, having another outstanding goal, making it 2-0.
So that's your recap of the semifinals. We'll be kind of drifting in and out of that for the next little while. We'll be here till about a quarter till. Kickoff here from Oglethorpe with Rhodes and the Stormy Petrels. Will be on gopetrels.com. It'll be Jessica Charman hanging out with Jason Longshore for the final, and we'll see who the winner is here in the conference tournament and advancing on further from here. But what we're going to do, we're going to kind of break everything down for you. We're going to let you know what's going on, what to expect, how we got here to this particular moment in time when it comes to the regular season. Rhodes right now is on a tremendous run of form. And you have both of these squads. One team hasn't lost since mid-September. One team only has 1 loss since mid-September. So we'll go through all the particulars, what to look out for. Once again, go to gopetrels.com starting a little before 1 o'clock, and you'll have all the action with Jess and Jason coming up in just a little bit. But it is our duty to get you ready for things here on a beautiful afternoon. Should be in the low 70s by the time kickoff starts. And remember, hopefully that you have fallen back. Did you get how were your clocks coming into falling back?
I didn't know it was happening. So when I woke up in the morning, I thought it was 9. I thought I was going to be late, and it wasn't. It was 8 o'clock. I was rushing, and then I checked my clock, and I was like, oh well, it's not. And then I wasn't even prepared for the weather either. As you can see, I'm in a sweater, and it is going to be in the low 70s, and I'm not prepared. Not prepared at all.
It is not sweater weather. Maybe
sweater weather.
After sundown it may be, but it'll be great action here. Looking forward to a fantastic crowd as well. I've even seen some Rhodes folks already out in the parking lot getting their laps in, getting ready before they open the gate.
I have too. I see a couple fans over there sitting over in the stands too. Just a couple of them. I see a little hints of red over there. I haven't seen a lot of Oglethorpe fans yet, but I think they'll be coming in too. We had a huge turnaround on that balcony. I don't know if you guys can't see it, but right over there, and I mean, a huge crowd over there on that balcony, a whole bunch of fans for Oglethorpe on Friday as well.
And it's fun the way that the layout is here at Oglethorpe. Over time, there have been apartment complexes that have been created, and I'm trying to see, we took in, I think, 4 stories. We got a 4-story apartment complex off behind the action. So if you don't want to wander in here in Brookhaven and see what's going on in the SAA championship, as the season's gotten along, it's been really cool. You have folks who will be in the apartments coming out on their balconies and watching everything going on. It's a very unique Wrigley Field, Wrigley-esque kind of a vibe here at Brookhaven.
I love it. And honestly, we same thing kind of up in Kennesaw. We have a little place that overlooks Fifth Third Bank. You can't really see the stadium too well, but it's really nice. You know that a game's going on. You hear the stands. A friend of mine lives up there, and he always tells me that he can hear everything going on. Some of the stadium lights will still be on late in the night, and it'll keep him awake because the stadium lights are very big, but it's a very nice setup. It's a great opportunity as well. You don't have to really leave your house to come watch a nice little game of soccer here, and it's awesome.
But if you are not in the 4-story apartment complex off the grounds, come on in. It's going to be a packed house. Really looking forward to having the fire marshal maybe being the most important person here this afternoon, trying to figure out how many of you can come in, how many of you can't. And it'll be the first chance, I'm sure, for some to come here to Oglethorpe and see the renovations that have been made over on the side where you have the cameras that you'll be watching the match from Go Petrels. It is a press box setup where you have the roof and you have the press box internal elements there, but it's now a full-blown stand that is there as well. So it's been some great additions here recently to Oglethorpe to get us to where we are here in the SAA.
I like the field. When I came in here on Friday, I didn't expect to see the setup and the way it looked. I had never been to this field before either, and it was really nice. The campus is beautiful. I've heard of it. I've never been to Oglethorpe, and then seeing the field too, the turf, the way it's all laid out, it's a really nice setup that they have here.
Well, and there's a piece of history attached to Oglethorpe. They used to have D1 football back in the 1920s, and they were trying to the facade where the baseball stadium is. That was the old football stadium.
Oh.
And there was in the late 19 teens, they were trying to come up with financing for the football stadium so they could be, one of the powers in Division I football back in the 1920s. And there was the money would show up, and all of a sudden, oh, okay, hey, we've got a football stadium. Whose name are we going to put on it? The Hermance family that was attached to Woolworth at the time had secretly kind of stashed away the money, and they were the ones that came away with naming this to have the football stadium be the football stadium. So they named it after the Hermance family. Problem: 1929 in the Depression. And so the Hermance family lost their fortune in the Woolworth, but it's still always been Hermance Stadium, and you see the facade as you're driving out on Peachtree Road. It's a really cool element to what's been going on here with the growth of sports and part of the sports history here in Georgia with a team that has been undefeated in Division I football since the 1920s.
That's crazy. That's a really cool little history lesson.
You could buy a book about the history of college football in Georgia written by me. You can get that on Amazon.
That was a nice little plug there. I like that.
That's
That was a nice little segue.
All right, so she's Maddie Cruz. I'm John Nelson. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the pregame show, getting you ready for Oglethorpe and Rhodes coming up 1 o'clock Eastern time to determine the SAA championship. When it comes to these two particular teams, Maddie, we look at the two reigning back-to-back coaches of the year when it comes to Matt Lamb and John Aiken. When you've had the chance to look at these two sides, you mentioned how the teams got here, but what have been some of your takeaways looking at Oglethorpe and looking at Rhodes?
I mean, it's going to be a very defensive battle on both sides. I mean, Rhodes has a great defense. Well, they have the reigning defensive player of the year for the SAA conference standings, and forgive me, I believe that is Eli Polker. Which that's going to be facing up against Ben Elram for the Oglethorpe side on their offensive side. And then Oglethorpe also has that great defense too. I believe it's going to be a late scoring match. I don't think
so. You think it's going to be cagey and dicey until probably the pressure gets ramped up? No. All right. So here I was going to do the I'm not going to say predictions, but the analysis part. But so you're thinking is it going to go 90 or is it going to go more than 90?
I think it could go either way.
I'm going more than 90.
I feel like because the past couple games, I thought they were going to go more than 90. And these two semifinal matches I saw Friday, it was down to the wire. I thought we were going to go into extra time, and then we were going to possibly even go to PKs because of how defensively and how the ball was switching from both side to side. It was very much like a cutthroat battle for the ball. But I was very shocked when I got those late goals as well. So I think it's either going to be a really late goal right at the very end of the second half, or we're going to go into extra time, and then craziness is going to ensue.
We like craziness ensuing as long as it's controlled craziness. When you look at Rhodes so far this season, Rhodes, they don't have the double-digit goal scorer like we've been seeing in Ben Elram here with Oglethorpe. Literally, it is, and I'm gonna do live math here, and that's always dangerous. 3, 6, 9, 12 different goal scorers when it comes to 13 different goal scorers. 13 different goal scorers for Rhodes so far this year. No one more than 5. And that leading goal scorer coming into the semifinals was Ben Novello, who had 5. So you've got more than a dozen players who put the ball in the back of the net, which speaks to the balance that you're seeing from Rhodes. And you mentioned the talisman for Oglethorpe. It's the balance on the flip side for Oglethorpe. For Rhodes.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Ben Novello as well in the last meeting between Rhodes and Oglethorpe. He was one of the big goal scorers in that match as well, to only give Oglethorpe their first loss of conference season, and actually their only loss in conference play this season entirely. You're
looking at Rhodes in a team that has a lot of W's, a couple of T's, very few L's coming into this weekend. To be perfectly honest, the last time that Rhodes lost, September 17th. That's what we're looking at here when you're looking at Rhodes. Going from the loss against Stockton, win against McMurray, win at Millsaps, Win at Belhaven. That's always a lightning environment there in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a 3-2 game there. Game 1 at home against Birmingham Southern. Then you end up with draws at Swanee and Center, the back-to-back road trip, 2 matches in 3 days. You end up with 2 goalless draws. Then the sprint, beating Oglethorpe 2-1, which is part of the subplot to today's game, the rematch with this one. Beating Berry, beating Hendricks, beating Berry again in the tournament, beating Center. But then you go back the last 7 matches. You mentioned the defense. Once again, doing math, me, very dangerous on a Sunday. Only 2 goals have been surrendered in the last 7 matches for Rhodes. You mentioned that defense, and I think that emphasizes the point here. Stout defense from Rhodes against a high-powered Oglethorpe offense.
And exactly, we're going to see a lot of that defense on the road side, and then we're going to see a lot of that attack coming in from the Oglethorpe side too. I mean, you're going to see Ben Alrum, you're going to see all of these players go in and try to make these runs, get these attacks in. And then we also saw on Friday, for those of you who didn't get to see, I mean, it was a bit of a difficulty finding the ball for Oglethorpe. It was a bit of finding that balance, finding that control in that first half. They were able to get it a little bit in the second half, but it was still a back and forth. Once they got that first goal, it was very much, again, like trying to keep control of that ball. And with Rhodes in center, it was very much a very even divided playing field. I mean, it was either going to come down to the last second of who was going to get that goal, who was going to make that mistake to get that opportunity.
You mentioned Ben Alrum as the talisman for Oglethorpe, double-digit goals in the season for the Stormy Petrels. But then you go after Alrum, once again, math being dangerous, 3, 6, 9, 10 other individuals who've scored for Oglethorpe in various situations. You look at Medina, who you mentioned in the open, who's right there, second in goals. Kozine and Levy each with 5. Then you have Villia with 3. You've got a couple with 2 in Shiara, Aaron Ibe, Ama, who scored last time that I was here. You know, Javi Martinez. Then you have Ferreira and Presnell also. So a lot of different names. And I think that as you get closer to tournaments and tournament time, it's those depth and those names that you may not anticipate that would be the ones stepping up in a situation like this.
And I mean, you explained it perfectly. I think that also goes back to the Rhodes and Center game. Max Sosa coming up huge with that 88th minute goal. And I mean, I mentioned it before in that beginning part, but I mean, right at the top of that 18-yard box, right out there, right center, and it just got right in. And it was a beautiful goal. But it's players stepping up in these opportunities when you're maybe not seeing a lot of the players that you're used to stepping up, making these goals, making these runs. You're seeing new players step up and kind of take charge and get where it needs to be.
Going over the numbers when it comes to the average outputs for Oglethorpe and the opposition, margin of victory for Oglethorpe so far this season coming into the conference semis, flat out 2 goals a game difference, 2.47 to 4.7. And I think that speaks to what John Aiken has been able to do with this bunch. And you mentioned the keeping as well with Nico Mejia, 13-2-2, and the 13. They're all clean sheets. That is mind-blowing when you have something like that.
And he had a phenomenal save back on Friday. Watching that, I mean, it was just everything you want to see from a goalkeeper. It was a beautiful save all around, and his composure in goal is exactly what that leadership needs in the defensive back and that defensive area for Oglethorpe.
8 goals surrendered this season. Back on the third with the win in Swanee, 2-0, Alrum and Medina. 42 goals scored, 8 goals allowed so far. And honestly, if you take out the 2-2 game with Emory that we had here on the SDH network and doing all of the celebration around that, then losing at Rhodes, take out those 4 goals, you're talking about 1 goal at Swanee back in late September. Then you're talking about 2 matches, match 3 at Roanoke, match 4 at Lynchburg, where you gave up the other 3 goals. So literally it's like in groups. You have 2 matches in a 3-day period. You give up 3 goals. Then you wait 9:29 at Swanee. We know how tough it can be on the road sometimes against our friends at Swanee. 2-1 there. Then you give up 4 goals once again in 4 days. And so I think that the other element that I wanted to get into you with this about is the idea of the quick turn. And how do you think that it's going to affect/impact what we're seeing out here today?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a weird turnaround. You're going to see players there. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that we see here is players that will make that mistake, and then how the teams can overcome that and then advantage that. Like, you have to be able to have that composure. You have to be able to recognize that and to take those opportunities in your stride and not let missed opportunities happen.
When you end up with everything going on here in the conference, it's just from your perspective. Like I said, I've been able to see Emory and Oglethorpe, and you've gotten to see what life is like on the D1 level. What's it been like for you specifically to parachute in here to D3 and see what it's like, where you've got great rivalries, you've got championships on the line? What's it been like for you this weekend to parachute in here?
I mean, seeing it from the D1 side, noticing it a lot from Kennesaw State, just seeing that side. A lot of those players, it's very much like a cutthroat thing, but I think it's even more cutthroat here too. I mean, the passion and the ability that all these players possess. I mean, it's high class football that we're seeing here on the field anywhere. And I use the term football. I know many people aren't used to that.
FUTBOL, that's perfectly
it's
fine.
Okay. But I mean, it's just very high caliber soccer that you're seeing on the field on both sides. And I think that's where a lot of people, discredit it because they say, oh, Division III. They think, oh, that's like a lower division. But that doesn't mean that the talent of soccer and the talent of players and coaches that you have diminishes. If anything, what I've seen this weekend compared to some of the other D1 teams I've seen, probably some of the best football I've seen in the past year so far.
And the funny thing is, and it's interesting to see when it comes to the rosters themselves, the mix that you get with the local products, and then the influence that you get from outside the country and the talent that is there. I mean, Ben Alrum obviously is an example of that. Let me go through the Oglethorpe roster real quick. Here's the rundown. Georgia, Mountains, Rhode Island, Florida, North Carolina, Woodstock, Georgia, which is a northern suburb for those that may not necessarily be familiar with geography. Dalton, Northwest Georgia, about 90 minutes. You want to talk about a soccer hotbed? Dalton, definitely that. Wow. 2 from New York, Warner Robins, Georgia. So Christian Medina comes from Middle Georgia, which has been growing as a soccer hotbed as well. Brazil, local product, Decatur, Georgia, and Cozine. Weston, Florida, 3 more from Georgia. Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, 2 more from Georgia. And once again, Sebastian Molina from Perry, once again, Middle Georgia. Rougon, France. Who's that one?
Ooh,
that's Ben Alrum.
That's Ben Alrum. Yeah, you're right.
So
I slipped my mind.
Then Aaron Ibe from London. You have Max Hughes from Atlanta, Lawrenceville, Norcross, Atlanta, and Cummings. So in this roster, top to bottom, you've got interesting pockets. You've got the local products who wanted to stay close to home or came back home for whatever reason. Then you have the players like an Ibe, like an Alrum, and a Felipe Ferreira who come from different continents and different elements of this. And then you have the regional aspect, and then the pocket up in New York. It's really interesting to me to see all these different pockets come together and form what John Aikens put together.
And I think the amount of Georgia homegrown players that we saw on that roster as well. I mean, I think that's just a testament to how much soccer has grown in Georgia all around, Many people claim, Atlanta wasn't a soccer city, and here, look where we are now. It's and I think that's a testament. And then seeing all these international players come and be like, and want to come play here, want to come play in Georgia because of how much development. And I mean, a credit, like you said, to John Aiken for what he has done in this program in establishing and creating these relationships with these players and allowing them to grow into their full potential. You
mentioned coming into your full potential from all the different pockets. Let's get into the youth aspect of it versus the seniors aspect of it. And you're looking at, obviously, in situations like this, you can sit there and rely on younger players. You can rely on those players that are drifting into their senior seasons, being upperclassmen, knowing how to handle these kinds of situations. You look at, a player like Nico Mejia, who is a freshman keeper. And I think that speaks well, once again, to his level of maturity, coming in as a freshman with the 13 wins and the 13 clean sheets, which still is one of those just mind-bending stats.
Exactly. And I mean, I actually didn't even realize that he was a freshman. The way he's composed in goal, the way he's able to be a leader in that side. I mean, I would have never even known that he was a freshman, the way he's able to compose himself and the way he's able to stand there head on and take what's given to him.
You look at also a lot of the other players. Good catch. See, this is the part here where we try and sit there and make sure that our notes don't fly away and come up with as many paperweights as humanly possible. And once again, action coming up top of the hour with Jason Longshore, Jessica Charman at GoPetrels.com for the SAA title with Oglethorpe and Rhodes. Maddie Cruz there, John Nelson here. We're taking you through, getting you ready for what's going to happen at the top of the hour. A lot of graduate students But we mentioned a key freshman for Oglethorpe drifting into the limelight, and them being there. A lot of graduate students, but also at the same time, I'm going to see once again, math, a dangerous thing. Juniors. The number of juniors that John Aiken has, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 juniors on this roster alone coming back after this season, regardless of what the end of the line is. And I know that John Aiken wants to get to the last game of the year, but 12 juniors on this roster coming back for one more year.
And I mean, and that's just a great development. Who, you're going to be losing some players, you're going to be losing some key players in those seniors, but you have those 13 juniors who are going to be staying. They were able to learn from these group of people who are going to be leaving, and they're going to be stepping up and taking on those huge roles and coming into their own when they come in and they start playing for that next season.
On the flip side for Rhodes, 10 freshmen this year, including Ben Novello.
I mean, and again, that's just that recruitment class, getting those players in there and then building them up for what they've been. I mean, they're number 2 in the seed. I mean, you have a younger class coming in and really establishing and taking charge, and that just shows the caliber of what we're going to be seeing on both of these sides.
9 juniors for Rhodes coming back next season. Let me check the graduation rate here. 3 seniors, 5 seniors. Once again, this is me scanning quickly here. 6, 8. You're looking at 8 seniors, but a lot of juniors coming back, and the boatload of freshmen for Matt Lamb for Rhodes as they chase after that first conference championship in a tournament format. They shared a regular season title once before. And then we mentioned Oglethorpe, a lot of juniors for John Aiken. So you look at Rhodes, you look at Oglethorpe, and for me, it's going to be really interesting to see once again how these two sides develop after this year with graduation and such, and all of the different elements that we discussed here when it comes to putting rosters together. You mentioned the first matchup, and obviously that's the drawing card here. You mentioned how difficult it is to want to get revenge on an opponent, but you don't want to do it. You want to do it, but you don't want to jump out of yourself to do it. You have to stay in character if you want that win in the last game of the year in conference.
You have to be composed. And coming into this with the idea that this is a rematch, that this is, end all be all, that we lost to them on the road, you can't do that. You have to come in clean slate and focus on the job at hand, and that is winning the final. You can't come in and you can't have these expectations. You just have to go in and wipe the slate clean and then start and then play the 90 minutes that you have to play.
All right. So once again, recapping the big storyline here, going back to the matchup that was 2-1 back on the 13th of October, 2-1 at Rhodes. Chris Velia scored his 3rd of the season, and the assist went to Ben Alram. But that was the one loss in conference that Oglethorpe had, was at Rhodes, as both of these teams have made their way here to the last game of the year in conference. And then the biting of fingernails, the gnashing of teeth, trying to figure out, okay, if you win, then where are you going? Who are you playing? What's the deal? Are you an at-large? There are situations where you could be looked at as an at-large here with, if you don't win, regardless of who's your 1 and who's your 2 out of here, then you sit there. Does the South get that second bid? Do you get the at-large out of the SAA going into the conference tournament, or does it end up being back in the northeast or the west again? And
home field advantage is going to be a huge key thing here. And I mean, looking back at that last meeting between Rhodes and Oglethorpe, I mean, it was in Memphis. So Rhodes had the advantage. Rhodes had that home field advantage, had their home fans, and now we're back here at the final, and it's in Oglethorpe's home stadium. You got fans who are going to be lining those balconies to come watch overhead. You're going to have people lining up here as well, and a good turnaround for Rhodes too, people coming in town. But I mean, it's huge. Having that home field advantage is huge, at least for the mentality of a team, and knowing that you have that support from your fans coming into the match.
All right, so off camera, I'm going to break the fourth wall here for a bit. Jason Longshore, once again, Jason and Jessica Charman calling the match at 1 o'clock on GoPetrels.com. John Aiken, the head coach of the Stormy Petrels, has jettisoned the jacket, which is what I'm going to do in short order, because it is going to be in the 70s here today. We're all sitting here thinking, it's going to be cold, and we all overdress, and we're all in serious trouble when it comes to it. I'd love to know what the conversation is with John and Jason. John Aiken, the head coach of the Stormy Petrels, and Jason, getting obviously some intel leading into this match, but you wonder how nervous the coaches are in this situation. You wonder if the players are just like, okay, we're going to go out and do what we do. But survey survey these two sides for me. What do you see off camera as the activity and level of nervousness, activity? What do you when you look at these two groups, what are you sensing here when you stare at these two when we're about 20 minutes away from kick?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not a coach, so I'm just guessing.
Oh,
here,
no.
but,
I'm just saying it's like, all right.
But
So
yeah, like what do you observe? And I
Yeah.
mean, I think both of these teams, both of them are nervous. I think it'd be crazy if you weren't nervous. It's a final, and you're going against the number 1 and the number 2. It's one of those things, but it's acknowledging that you're going to be playing. Both teams are phenomenal. They have these key things, but it's just, I guess, finding that composure. And I think that conversation that John and Jason are having right now is just going over. I mean, what the strategy is, like how they're going to come through, like who's going to really take charge, what is going to be the message that he's talking to his team coming into this match, and what has that message and how the team is going to respond.
And you see John is like, give me a second. I have to put a ball back in a practice play here. So but I mean, you look at the last handful of matches as we recap everything here. Swanee once again going up against Oglethorpe, 2-0 win. Millsaps 5-0. Ibe with a brace. Alram with a brace. Cozine with a goal. That was goal number 5 on the night. Barry 1-0 win. Hendricks 3-0 win. Then it was those 2 losses that we talk about. Once again, at Rhodes back on the 13th of October. 2-1. Velia got the third. Alram got the assist. But once again, in a losing effort, that is the most goals that they have given up in any game this season when they've lost. Lynchburg lost 2-0. Once again, that was second match in 3 days. 2 on the road. Once again, at Rhodes back on the 13th of October. That's the most you've given up. 8 goals all season long surrendered by the Oglethorpe defense.
And I mean, that's a testament to the Oglethorpe defense right there. Just the way that they're able to defend that back line and to have that communication and be there. And, Rhodes has some great players in that attack, seeing just a couple of just how they were able to respond on Friday and then coming into this match today. And I mean, it's just going to be finding that composure. But I think the Oglethorpe back line is tremendous, and especially with the freshman goalkeeper that you have in there as well. That whole back line, they're a threat.
All SAA first team honors, Alram, Ama, Levy, and Cozine. Second team honors for Oglethorpe. Ferrari, Locklear, and Christian Medina. Honorable mentions, Bapst, Cavallaro, Javi Martinez, Mejia, and Nicola Shara. 10 conference titles for Oglethorpe, 7 regular season, 3 in the postseason. Last postseason conference title for Oglethorpe, by the way, back in 2017. Same year the Petrels went as far as the round of 32 in the D3 tournament. Also, the Petrels earned runner-up in 21 when they last hosted the tournament here. Title winner gets that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, and that's when we all go to ncaasports.com, sit there and find the D3 tab, find the sports tab, and go, okay, D3, soccer, click over, trying to figure out who's going to be doing what when. So you think that this one is going to be tight for the first 15 to 20, so by the time we get to the quarter pole, nothing's decided?
I don't think anything will be decided until maybe even towards the end of that second half, maybe even like the last 10 minutes.
So that's what she does. It's going to be last 10 minutes. I think it's going to go 90 plus 30. So I think we're going to go extra time. But once again, no golden goal. So I mean, honestly, if you go into a situation where it's 1-1, it could be 4-1 by the time. So there's no golden goal here. So if it's tied going into the extra 20, so it's 2 10s, not extra 30. I'm getting my levels blended together. 2 extra 10s. No golden goal. So it could literally finish 6-1, 6-2 or something like that before we go to PKs. So last thoughts before we go, other than the fact that we overdressed completely.
I mean, the sun is beating down on me. I am sweating a little bit, but it is okay. But I think I'm also sweating because of how great this match is going to be. I'm nervous for both sides, but I'm excited for what's going to happen. I think overall, it's going to be a very cutthroat match. Both of these sides are going to want the ball, and we're going to see back and forth. I don't think one side's going to retain too much possession. I think it's going to be a very even playing field on that side. As well, I think with shots and with how much opportunities both these teams are going to have. I think it's going to be very even. But ultimately, it's going to be a fun one, and you definitely got to tune in. It's going to be great.
So Maddie will be in charge of everything social media-wise, so keep an eye on all the pictures and all the stories that are going to be coming out on SDH at Soccer Down here. All across. I'll be back at halftime on GoPetrels.com to give you stats and kind of drop things down and let you know what's going on there. Then we'll be back for post-game after all the presentation and everything that happens at GoPetrels.com. So to be polite, ladies first. She's Maddie. I'm John. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the pregame show here on the SDH network, on the social medias and all the YouTubes and things like that. So we'll be back for post game when we're done, and hopefully we will have earned the clothing that we're currently wearing, because it's going to be a great day for soccer. Temps in the 70s, and boy, we got a conference championship to decide coming up in short order here with Oglethorpe and Rhodes. So once again, for Maddie, I'm John. Played safe, everybody. Enjoy the game coming up. GoPetrels.com, top of the hour, Jason and Jess. We're going to go that way and end the broadcast. See you.